Hello and welcome to Revolutionise Your Love Life. Do you want to know more about love relationships, what makes them work, how to create the one of your best dreams? Do you want to be in a really healthy, juicy love relationship? In these podcasts, we will give ideas and practical advice to light your way. Whether you're looking for a love partner, already in a relationship you wish could be better, or leaving one that has run its course, there will be something to inspire, empower and support you. Revolutionise Your Love Life is a fortnightly podcast where you will access the knowledge and wisdom of love experts and relationship coaches from across the world to help you find true fulfillment in love. I am your host, Heather Garbutt. Welcome. Hello everybody. Today I'm here with the lovely Ali Miles Jenkins. Oh, are we going to talk about what it's like to be 60 and beyond in our culture, and also the empowerment that comes with that age, and lovely fresh ideas and perspectives that Alison brings to that. She is an amazing person in her own right. She's an award-winning business owner, a facilitator, speaker, coach, mentor, and trainer. And she has been for the last 35 years. She's the author of New Manager Secrets, How to Accelerate Your Success as a Manager Immediately, which was in 2016, and the author of Boom Bossing It, Over 50 Not Overlooked, and that was published in 2022. She was a TEDx speaker in 2020 on the surprising truth about women over 50, and author of many management and people development published articles across different business sectors. She's currently providing specific mentoring, transformational coaching, training and consultancy for women over 60 and really championing the over 60s agenda. Welcome, Alison.
Welcome to you. I'm so pleased to be on your kind of stage today. So I know we've connected before, but I'm sure we're going to have some really interesting discussions over the next sort of 40 minutes or so.
Yes, I think we are. We're both women of a certain age. I'm 66, and you're past 60 as well.
Yeah, I'm almost just behind you, so I'll be 66 in November.
Right, so we're in the same ballpark. Yeah.
And what we've talked about. I'm wondering how we got there, actually. You know, 1 minute you're 30 and then you're sort of just getting on for 66. You're thinking, how did that happen? Well, I guess most women feel that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't even feel it bodily, you know. I've got a few aches and creaks, but really I don't notice that much difference.
No. I was out mucking my horse this morning and I was sort of shoveling a load of mess and, you know, carrying great big bales of hay and everything. And I was thinking, well, this is probably quite a good thing because I think it's quite easy for some women maybe to not exactly give up, but, you know, limit themselves a little bit. And I've always been someone who pushed myself past my limits, really. So, yeah, I like to keep active, physically active as well as mentally.
Yeah, me too. I love it. We both live in the sticks. We both do a lot of walking. We both got dogs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very vigorous.
Yeah, I think outdoor life is good as you get older. I think, you know, it's a mistake to try and limit yourself and retreat a little bit. If anything, I'm pushing myself more than I have done in years. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things about this age, self-expression becomes more key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But before we get into that bit, I need to pull us right back and let's look at the stereotypical things that are around in our culture about women over 60.
Yes, yeah. So I think, as you might have known before, Heather, I started really championing women with the 50s agenda. So, and it's amazing, isn't it, how time flies? And somehow then I suddenly became 60 and thought, is it actually viable to now be talking about the over 50s agenda? Although I do think that probably women probably listening to this podcast now can relate that whether you're in your 50s or spilling over into your 60s now and beyond, there's not too much of a differential, because I think most of us still want to thrive. We want to be really alive, living our best life at whatever age we are. So, would you agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely would. Yes,
Mm.
yes. And I think there's a little bit of a mismatch for me. You know, women talk about being overlooked. We
Mm-hmm.
may be jumping around a bit in your thinking, but
Mm.
being overlooked and not seen. And I
Yes.
actually think that's shifted, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
I think women are changing in their perspective, who they want to be seeing them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, I'll let you carry on. Tell me
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah.
more.
Okay, no, I was just going to say, because my first book for women over a certain age was Over 50, Not Overlooked. So, and I think when I wrote that, that was a few years ago now, and I think things have changed for a positive, in a positive direction. I think far more women are of a certain age are valuing themselves more, and they are wanting a voice, and they are definitely acknowledging that now is the time to lead their best life, and to try and dump some of the baggage that might be there, that may be restricting them, and actually just get on and really thrive.
Yes, yes. And improving the relationship with yourself, valuing yourself. It's
Yes.
really fundamental
Yes.
to that too.
I think so,
Yeah.
and as we'll probably talk about further on in this session today, I think it's very easy for society to still look down slightly at people as they get older, and I think women in particular. And I noticed it when I turned 50 and then started working with the over 50s, as you know, some
Mm.
years ago. That was very much on women's agendas, that they weren't going to be perceived as they perceive themselves as soon as they turn 50. And it's a
Mm.
big milestone for many, many people. I know, because I
Mm.
cried on my 50th birthday. So, yeah.
Yeah. You really felt that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And I think it's also the passage of time, and how quickly it goes. And I think as you get older, relevancy for today really, and the messaging is to really make the most of everything that you're doing, and any opportunities that kind of come your way, even if there's something that perhaps initially doesn't attract you, have another look at it. Is it something or someone that can really help you, flourish in your life? And if so, go with it.
Yes. Yes. Seize the day.
Absolutely, carpe diem. Yeah.
So let's explore a little bit what women of our era are facing at the moment.
Okay. Well, I think one of the biggest things for me, and I think it's 50s and 60s, is the sort of and whether it's a perception or otherwise doesn't really matter, because as we know, if we're made to feel like that, we take it on as our truth, don't we? So I think so many women do feel, particularly, I think 50s. So I've gone through that kind of 50s era and helped women in their 50s. And now, obviously, now that I've turned 60 and I'm now mid 60s, see it from a slightly different perspective. But I think it's very easy for women, let's say in their 60s in particular, to start to feel as though they're a bit past it, or they run the risk of being perceived as frumpy or out of date or out of mind. And when I was reflecting on this, Heather, I was thinking, well, where does some of those feelings come from? So I've had those feelings and views and misconceptions potentially as well. And I don't know, I think when I look at my kids and younger people, I think somehow through society we now have this kind of thread that older people, particularly women, aren't, I think, and this is a shame, because you think it'd be moving the other way, but from my own perception and experiences and those women that I've worked with, I think there is still quite an anathema towards older people and older women in particular. I think it's much harder. We have this stereotypical idea, don't we? The silver fox, the man that turns 50 and he's still very handsome and his hair's turned grey and he looks better than before. And I think I know a lot of women now are keeping their grey hair and very proud of it. But I think that's been much harder for women to accept that transition than it has been for men. So, uh, ironically and unfairly in a way, I think there's still this slight bias
Mm.
towards, the women are still perceived over 50 in a slightly different vein. And because I've worked, as you probably know, Heather, I've had a corporate career as well, running my own business, but for corporates and big international companies and so on, and going in and working with them and training their managers. I think I definitely sense that there's still a bit of a pejorative view of, would we want women over 50 or would we want women over 60 in our business, irrespective of the values and the talent that we can still bring. So that's still part of my agenda. And as I say, that started when I was working with the 50s, and it's carrying on because going back to the men, I think men still, I mean, my husband's 65 and he's got a very, senior job. And the age doesn't seem to be an issue. But I think if I look at then a woman the same age in that role, that would be much more unusual.
Right.
So
Yes, there is still
there's,
discrepancy.
there is an inequality and a discrimination there. However, people might tell you otherwise. I think it's still there.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it'd be surprising if that disappeared
Mm,
in 2 generations. And
mm,
I also think what's happening with America, it's 2025 as we're recording this. It's
mm.
the early days of the Trump presidency, and it
Yes,
feels to
yes,
me like he is championing negativity towards women,
yes,
taking away childcare, taking away contraception.
yes,
Uh,
yes. That's been on his agenda for a long time, hasn't it?
yeah.
For his presidency as well. So we kind of knew that would be coming, and I
Mm.
think that's quite a horrific thing to think about. Um,
Yes,
and because the
hopefully.
USA is such a powerful country, it
Mm.
then spills out, doesn't it, elsewhere, which is
Yes,
it is
what
quite worrying.
permission it gives to uh, others in the world who maybe
Yeah,
don't have such championing of women as a lot of the Western
yeah,
countries do.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
you just don't quite know.
it's quite worrying, isn't it, when such a powerful person has such outdated societal views. It's very
Absolutely.
worrying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, I
definitely.
agree.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's think then. We've got women who are being considered invisible, irrelevant, out of date, out of touch, whatever that
Hmm.
is, from the business side of things,
Hmm.
from an interpersonal side of things. What are they wanting? What are they wanting? What are they wanting to change?
I think one of the things that they most want to work on, and for some people, I would say some women, it's a need rather than a want, but they may not recognize it, is their confidence and their self worth. Because we've used words already today, haven't we? Like perceptions of being invisible, out of touch, out of mind, old fashioned, all those kinds of labels that could go to us. And I think it's very easy for people, for women of a certain generation, to take that on board and kind of accept it. But there has got to be something, or initiatives and so on, that can encourage women not to think like that, who you can get them to, sorry, there's a fly chasing me around here. Uh, Mechanisms and opportunities where we can actually change women's frames of mind and make them feel more confident and more valued. Because unfortunately, one of the things that I've noticed, I think to some extent I felt it myself, I'll admit it, even within my own family environment, that somehow, your kids grow up and they go into their 30s or maybe even early 40s. But that's a very different dynamic, I think, these days, to then how women in their late 50s and 60s are perceived. And I've personally noticed, maybe even within my own family, not a divide, that's going too far, but that there are bigger differences, I think, in the generations, even within the family. This is my perception, than there was when I grew up
Mm.
with my family and my
Mm.
parents, which is quite interesting because we like to think, don't we, that our society today is so avant-garde and so on it and change orientated. But I'm not 100% when I'm with younger people, I don't necessarily get that sense of, wow, we've got someone here who's got so much that we can benefit from and we can learn from. I think there's a shift, if you like, to this generation behind us, if you like, or is it forward or behind? You know what I mean?
Mm,
The
I
younger
do.
generation. I think their perceptions are different, and I think it's a shame because I sometimes still feel as I'm the older person or the old person when I'm with a group of younger people. And it would be very
Mm.
interesting if people listening to your podcast would kind of comment or write in or however they can connect with you afterwards, Heather, to see whether their perceptions are the same as mine. So,
Mm.
I like to look contemporary, and you don't want to be, the old mutton dressed up as lamb phrase, but I like to be contemporary in my clothing and look after myself and go to the gym and stay on trend with stuff to a large extent. But then if I'm, for example, in a group of women who are in their 40s maybe or 30s, thinking about, one of my elder daughters, I feel outdated and yeah, I don't feel 100% comfortable, even though I think I'm quite a confident person myself. Can you
Mm.
relate to that, or do you know people or women that would also be able to relate to that?
Yes, yes, I do. I think probably, as I don't have children or grandchildren, that doesn't come
Hmm.
to me
Right.
personally very much.
No.
But certainly, probably in the neighborhood groups, we've got quite a close-knit neighborhood groups. I think
Hmm.
there's a group of younger people who are together and
Yes.
a group of older people who are together. And
Hmm.
I don't know if that's excluding one or the other, but it's there. It's there.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely there, isn't it? You can't close that gap completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different experience.
Yeah, it
So,
was quite interesting. One time when my younger daughter got married a few months ago, and we went on her hen night to a nightclub, the biggest nightclub in Cambridge. Well, I haven't been. I loved going to nightclubs, but I have to say I haven't been to one in like probably 25 years. And I was quite, nicely dressed up on trend and so on. And I was with all these younger girls and people that my daughter had been to university with. So they were in their like late 20s, early 30s. And there's me there at sort of 65. And it was really funny though, because I was quite dressed up, and I got these men, and I had two or three men, and they kept coming over trying to get me to go on the dance floor and everything. And they were probably at least 20 years younger than me. And I mean, all the girls were laughing, and they were going, "How are you doing this?" And I was thinking, "Oh well, there's life in the old girl." Yeah, it was just so funny because their perception would be, "Oh, that's not going to happen." And they had these three guys kept saying, "Come on, I'll buy you a drink. Come on the dance floor, dance with us." And they were like 20 years younger than me. So actually, it was the best hen do I've ever been to because I came
lots
out
of
with a
fun.
bit of a boost. I'm sharing that to show that we probably denigrate ourselves and we don't necessarily always value what we still have. We can look at the minus points of getting older and so on, can't we? Rather than actually, I look great, I feel great for my age. Let's just go out and do your stuff. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, that's really lovely.
yeah.
Yes. So let's have a think about this then. What's important, do you think, for women going into their 60s? They want to thrive. What's
Hmm.
important? What would you suggest they are and do?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things for them to do, first of all, I think, is to work out where they are now. And I think that means not necessarily just looking at the negatives, but all the positives, their collateral, if you like, that's
Hmm.
been earned and honed and valued and should continue to be so. So that's one of the things. I've worked with a lot of women, as you probably know, Heather, in their 50s and their 60s now, and a lot of them are self-deprecating and they don't they're not really looking within themselves to see how they can still lead their best life. So they are restricted, if you like, by some parameters that they maybe hold in their head, or that they have society attributes to them, that actually no, they can't be like that. And I'm not saying that, you know, we should all go and dye our hair purple or something and wear platforms or anything ridiculous like that, but there is so much more to us still, and I think it's a shame if we try and shut down part of that and say, oh, I can't do that. Like with me, you know, oh, I couldn't go to this nightclub in Cambridge and dance around in a skimpy dress. You know, we've got
Mm.
to, whatever we want to do, we have to take those barriers down. And I think a lot of the barriers are imposed by society, but we don't have to accept them. And if they're in our own heads, then we can work out a narrative that actually means that we can go out and do what we want and feel more confident.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I see that in relationship coaching,
Mm.
particularly if people have left a long marriage and
Yes.
they come out and they're dating, they feel quite unconfident
Hmm.
that, or they're doing calling in the one, and
Yeah.
they're looking at their patterns in relationship, and
Mm.
have maybe been in relationships that didn't make them feel very good.
Hmm.
So when they're coming out and they're looking to date, they need to really do quite a bit of work to unload all that baggage,
Yes, absolutely.
all
Yes.
those
Yeah.
beliefs about themselves, you know, that I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy of real love, or that doesn't happen to me, or all the good ones are taken.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, that those beliefs really do block,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what you hold about yourself and you hold
Yeah.
about others. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's right. And then if you're if that holds you back and you're blocked, then you actually become invisible because you see yourself as invisible, or unworthy or unattractive or whatever. And
yeah,
then I think once you've got that kind of negative mindset, then that's quite a difficult thing, isn't it, to have to work on and overcome.
yes.
So I think it's, you know, work when people work with people like in your profession, you know, that's great, because that can definitely turn around their lives, can't it, if they can kind of
Absolutely. Mm,
fix some of those limitations, then yeah, it's going to open up a
yeah,
whole new world for them. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So say a bit more about the other sides of things. What that women want in terms of freedom and independence. What do
Okay.
they want for their
Yeah,
sixth decade?
I think they want confidence, and they need to find a way to value themselves, so self-worth, because I think if you haven't got the confidence and you don't value yourself, then that's a huge inhibitor in terms of making the most of your 60s and beyond, because it's
Mm,
going to hold you back. So I have a program where I work with women one to one on these sorts of issues. And it's very interesting because often my client, as an example, would initially be very sort of um, self-effacing, diffident, not seeing the value in themselves. And most of that, not always, but most of it comes from their concerns about their age and how they don't perceive themselves as they would want to, because they're trying to compare how they are now with how they looked and felt 20, 30, 40 years ago. So a lot of the work that I do is getting them to reframe that so they can see this wonderful, experienced person that has so many skills and talents and experiences that they can share, whether it's with younger people or their own generation, and their the quality of what they've learnt en route actually makes them a very personable, exciting individual to get to know. So putting that into the dating scenario, you know, if someone can actually see their self-worth, their experiences, and turn that into something that they can offer, obviously, to a potential partner, then that's a great thing for them to be able to be. But you probably know more about that than I do. But I would imagine some are very self-effacing, and it's not just with the dating, is it? It's with anything else. It's like, can I? So I love going to the gym, and I work quite hard to make sure I keep my figure quite reasonable. But I would say, even if you don't do that, going to the gym is a really good thing. And it makes you feel really good. You're releasing all those endorphins and so on. And once you start to if you're in a scenario where you're locked into a bit of a situation and you're not really sure what to do, I think sometimes if you can't work it out mentally, first of all, if you go and do a lot of exercise and you go to the gym and so on, and maybe invest in a trainer, someone who can make you look at yourself in a different way and learn, lots of different things about your physiology and how you can come over to people, then that's going to be a really, really good thing, and that can stand you in good stead, for the next 10 years or so. So I only go once a week at the moment because I'm so busy, but I have a personal trainer, and I have done on and off for years and years. And he's probably 35 years younger than me. But it's great, and he does push me, and I feel physically and therefore mentally better from doing that kind of exercise. But I know from when I've had my large groups of women in certainly in the pre-COVID days, when I had a very big group of 6,000 women that I supported online on Facebook, I know that many of them, because they weren't necessarily happy with their figure or whatever to start off with, they didn't want to go and do the exercise. And I would say, definitely, if you're feeling a bit down about yourself in whatever situation, going to the gym, getting somebody to help you. Don't go on your own because it's too intimidating, but get a trainer and start working out and work on your physiology. It definitely helps, I think, with it's mind over matter, isn't it?
Yes, it gets things moving. Yeah,
it does.
it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something sort of obliquely there, and that is support.
Mm-hmm.
When you're
Yes.
making a change and you're developing and you're really wanting to do something different, to be more fully yourself, you need support to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't do it on your own, especially if you've got, as most of us have, well, probably everybody by our sort of ages, you've got baggage, you've got issues, you've got fears, and so on, resentments, all these sorts of things. And sometimes those things can get in the way and stop us from doing things. Whereas if we've got it's like having a coach, isn't it? Or you've got a trainer in the gym, doesn't really matter. Somebody who can help you bring out what you want to bring out. And you can't always do that yourself. However skilled or competent you are as a person, I think we all at times need someone else to support us on that journey, whatever that is.
Yes, we do, particularly if we're making transformative changes, because
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
stepping out of an old identity is really quite difficult to do on your own. You can't think outside your own box.
No, exactly. And I think for people in their 60s, so obviously we're talking primarily about women at the moment. So for women in their 60s, I think, this is your moment now. This would be one of my key messages. This is your moment to have a really good deep look at yourself inside and out, and decide what the great things are, what the things are that you're happy with, and the things that you're not happy with, whether that's appearance or your physique or your physical ability or whatever it is, or your friends. So for example, someone that I've mentored on my program recently, she was very lonely. She didn't have many friends. And so that was one of the goals that we initially worked on. And it's great when you see someone transform like that, because I think for people in their 60s, a lot of them can become quite lonely. Maybe they've lost their parents recently, or their children have emigrated, or they've moved up north and you live in the south, or whatever, and you do feel very lonely. So I think to look at what you want to change about yourself, and then find someone who can help you make that transition, is that can be transformative for the next sort of 20 years, can't it?
Yes.
Can't do
and
it.
I love
Can't do it all yourself. We all think we can do. We all think we can mend ourselves, and we all think we can be brave or put a brave face on and deal with stuff, but we can't do it all on our own.
No, we can't. And I think we really do need encouragement to think beyond. What do we really want? If we've got maybe 15, 20 years of active life, what do we want to be doing with it?
Yes.
Who do we want to be? Do we want to travel? Do we want to be working? Have we got a purpose inside, or a part of ourselves that hasn't been expressed that needs to come out?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe it could be all of those things.
Mm,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's a good time to sort of work on yourself in a way. And I think it's imperative really to work on yourself, because we are on a limited time, aren't we, to some extent. We can't say, oh well, I'm going to leave that for another 10 years and then I might start going to the gym, or oh, I'm going to wait until another 4 years before I try and improve my social life. I mean, we've got to do it now. So
yeah,
I am a very action orientated person, um, and I think I do believe in just doing it and seeing what happens. Can always take a step back or change things, but inertia is probably, I would say, one of the biggest risks to us having a good life in our 60s.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, where can people find you if they want to contact you? They're in their 50s and 60s and they want to make changes in their life and get more confidence. Where can they find you to work with
Okay.
you?
So the easiest way would probably be to email me in the first instance, or to actually look at my website. So I don't look at my own website very often at the moment. So I'm just trying to think what the URL is it. Oh, that's the one thing I should have prepared for before. Isn't that terrible? So
Sassy and successful after 60.com.
think it is sassy and successful. The reason I was hesitating was I sometimes put another adjective in, but I think in the URL it is www.sassyandsuccessfulafter60.com.
Right. Okay. And 60 is the numbers rather than letters.
Yes, that's right. 60, the 60. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So is there anything else, Alison, that we haven't covered?
Um, well, a couple of things. If we've got time, I mean,
Mm,
obviously, the whole thing about vitality and health and all that kind of thing is really, really important. But I think I haven't chosen to go down that route myself, in terms of some of the things that I would advise people to do, because I'm not clinically trained. So I would say anyone who needs to work on themselves physically and physiologically, then you need to go and find someone who has that kind of experience. But I would say things like, from the women that I've worked with, where they can end up in a bit of a malaise is when they haven't really worked out their purpose. So they haven't worked out their purpose. They haven't worked out what's going to make them feel great over the next 10, 15 years, who knows? So what do they want? What other fulfillment do they want in their life? Whether that's working on themselves, whether it's improving family relations, whether it's getting more friends from, the woman that I've worked with very recently. One of the things was she needed to find more friends. So we came up with all sorts of things on the program where she would feel comfortable going out initially to something, so that because she would be on her own, but that she would have a strategy then in how to feel good about herself, relaxed, able to talk to other people in the room, make the connections then become friends, and so on. So that sort of thing, I think, is a really rewarding part of the sort of program that I run. But also, the not just the connection, community, but also travel opportunities. I think a lot of us come up with excuses why we better not do that, or we better not be seen to be spending the money to go off on an extravagant holiday, or well, who's going to look, who's going to pop in on my mother if I go to XYZ abroad. But all these things are just barriers that we put in front of us, or they're um, obligations, shall I say, that we feel we've got. I mean, my mum now is 93, and I mean, you wouldn't think she was 93, but you know, that's quite a, you know, she's on a bit of a sticky wicket, obviously, with her when she's walking around her flat, she could fall over or whatever. But you know, we put in place things so if we're not there, someone can help, and that doesn't then restrict what we're able to do. Because I know a lot of people in their 60s and say, oh, I don't think I'd go abroad, you know, because my mum's in her late 80s, and what if she had a fall or something? But the problem is that parent or whoever it is could live for another 10 years. You can't then say, well, you know, I'm in my 60s, my mum's in her 80s, so maybe I should stay in the UK, because then you're just restricting yourself. You're taking your holidays off the agenda, and that sort of thing. And I know my mum certainly wouldn't want me to do that sort of thing.
No, so you're missing out on a sort of
Yeah.
really restorative thing. And I guess then we're touching into shame and guilt.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And those things then inhibit us. And then it's a downward spiral, isn't it? Because then we get cross with ourselves even more because we've let it inhibit us, rather than trying to find a mutually acceptable way of handling that sort of situation so that we ourselves are not missing out on opportunities, you know, that could be there for the taking. I mean, my mum lives about an hour from me, but my sister is much closer. So we speak every day, we're comfortable that she's looked after properly. And that didn't stop us from going to India a couple of years ago. We toured India for 5 weeks. My husband had an opportunity to go out there with work. And we thought, right, we're going to go all the way through India. We'd been before, but we wanted to do a big tour. And we were able to do that because we confident that we had support in place. Uh, and you know, she didn't mind us going, and we were really glad that we went. But we could have said, "Oh, is that appropriate?" You know, Mum's in her 90s. You know, and I think we have to have that balance, don't we? What's ethical and right for us, but not put into place in your head things that you're just telling yourself might happen. And then that prevents you from, you know, we're in our 60s, so we've got to do what we want to do as well as care for others.
Yeah. So it's really clear to make healthy choices for yourself.
Yes, exactly. And when you asked me what else, the only other thing that I was going to raise was that I think it's an interesting issue that I was talking to somebody else about. It goes back in a way to what I said earlier about family, that I've spoken to a lot of women, and I'd really love your listeners to contact you, you know, if this resonates with them. A lot of people are feeling not, I wouldn't say ill at ease with their children, but they're not necessarily having, say, if they're in their late 50s, 60s, late 60s, they don't seem to necessarily be having quite the same relationship with their grown up children as they thought they might have when they were perhaps in their early 50s. And it's very interesting. And to some extent, I've personally experienced that a little as well. And I'll be really intrigued to know if people contact you and say,
Yes.
you know, have people talked to you about that? Because I think it's very easy to think, oh, yes, you know, I've had this wonderful relationship with my children. I've done everything for them. I've spent loads of money, put them through all the opportunities. And now they're having their own families, which is all, you know, fair enough. But I don't know. I don't necessarily feel quite the same way as I was expecting to feel when I'm now in gatherings, social gatherings and so on, with my grown-up children and their children. I don't know whether it's my perception, but I don't know. There's that slightly, you know, going back to my mantra about when the over 50s work that I did, over 50, not overlooked. I think, and women have shared this with me and confided with me that they often feel not as well at ease as they would have expected to have felt when they were in family gatherings with their younger children and their family and friends. So I think that's a very interesting one, and I haven't found much that's been written about it.
No, me neither. So let's leave that as an open question for
Yes.
people to come back to, either you or me, just to see.
Yeah. Do you feel slightly less at ease when you're with your grown-up children and their families than you expected to? Because I sometimes feel that. That might be just my own hang up, I don't know. But a couple of other people that I've spoken to said, oh yeah, I feel that as well. I don't feel quite as included, or don't feel quite the same as I was expecting to. And is it that age? Is it the demographic? Is it that gap now? Because everybody's saying that a lot of the youngsters are not like we were, for example, when we were younger. So there might be something there, but it's something that I'm mithering about in my head a little bit. So I'd be really interested to know what your listeners think.
Okay, well, let's leave that open for them to come back to us.
Yeah.
Let's just remind them where they can find you.
Yes, so the easiest way would be really through the website, as we've said already. So if anybody wants to get in touch, there's all the contact details there. There's information on the site about what I do, what I can offer, and that's probably the best way, rather than emailing in, because emails get lost. So use the contact form on the website.
That's wonderful. So that's sassyandsuccessfulafter60.com.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much, Alison. It's been
That's
wonderful.
all right. Lovely to talk to you, Heather, today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Revolutionise Your Love Life. I'd like to know what has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation. Do take a minute and share this with us, and visit us on our Facebook page. You can connect with me personally on my email at heather@heathergarbutt.com. If you can think of someone who will benefit from listening to this podcast, please do share it with them. If you have any feedback on how I can improve it, please do reach out to me, as I'm always keen to learn more. Thank you so much again for listening, and we'll meet again on the next episode of Revolutionise Your Love Life.